Welcome, everybody. I am Rick DiClemente. This is Astrology Unplugged, episode 99. It's really good to have you. Along about a month ago, as you know, this show is mostly astrology, but I've been doing some other subjects here and there. If you'd like to join us on Thursday nights, you're watching this on YouTube. If you'd like to join us on Thursday nights, just at 8 o'clock Eastern, go to starself.com/unplugged, or I'm sure you can just search for Star Self Unplugged on Google. Tonight's a very special night because we have 2 weeks in a row, Specialists in A Course in Miracles. And I'm sure a lot of you know a lot about it, and a lot of you don't. And that's what tonight is, to give you the basics and the strong foundation of what the course is about. It's not a religion. It is a self-study course between you and Jesus. And oh, by the way, before we dig in, our wonderful guest next week will be Nick Arandes, who is the author of Let Go and Let God. What happens when you let go? And then on the 18th of October, I will be on with my co-host, Liza Jane Brown. We will specialize in talking about the 10 years of Pluto and Capricorn, what we saw coming, what started to come, what started to happen, the economic downfall, the eventualities of it now, the fact that we're 2/3 of the way through Pluto and Capricorn, which is 2008 through 2023. And then we're going to be finalizing this series with November 1st, where we're going to be talking a lot about Eris, the new planet, and the one that is causing all the rise of the feminine and the Me Too movement and many, many other things. In a lot of ways, like you're seeing on TV today, the downfall of the patriarch, which needs to go down. Okay, tonight my guest, I'll bring her to you in just a second, but I want to tell you a little bit about the Course of Miracles. In case you have never seen the book, this is it. The course is divided in 3 parts: a large text, middle workshop, which is 1 procedure per day, and a teacher's manual at the end. It is not easy reading. But I want to give you a little bit of briefing on this first. In 1965, at Columbia University, there was a man named William Thetford and a woman named Helen Schucman, who worked in the same department, in the psychology department. And very brilliant, but they just weren't getting along. And they said to themselves, there's got to be a better way. We're smart people. And within days, October 8th, was the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, 1965. 10 days later, October 18th, is when Jesus started to, his name is Jeshua, you can pronounce it for us, Kim. He started to channel his message, which is A Course in Miracles, through Helen Schucman, and he told her, please take note, this is A Course in Miracles. I have validated the planets from 1965, October 18th. The planets look very good and very honest. There's no deception going on. It is not an easy read. It is very, very common to talk to people all over who try to read it and they can't. They try to read and they can't. People pick it up 10 times, put it down 10 times. It's very cerebral. I finally made it through all when I was ready. Anyhow, in the beginning, the Course says, this is a Course in Miracles. I want you to listen to this closely. It is a required course, and only the time that you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. This is the critical line. It does aim, however, at removing the blockages of awareness as love presence. As Hawkins says, when we move the clouds away, the sun's always there. We don't have to go turn the sun up, just move the clouds away. Well, it's not that easy. The opposite of love is not hatred. The opposite of love is fear. But what is all-encompassing cannot have an opposite. And the Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God and his servant, Kim Wilson in Texas. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. A little history just for the folks. After a while, some people started to request, after 30, 40 years of the Course, some people wanted a more heart-oriented Course. And there came about another channeling from Jesus through a woman named Marie Perron. And she put forth her book called A Course of Love, A Course of Love. It just so happens that I went online to a little study group where I met the Reverend Kim, and that's where we did week after week readings to each other. So Kim is a Reverend. She is a master of the Course in Miracles, A Course of Love. And what's the community you belong to?
The Community Miracles Center.
Okay, now your job is to explain the difference of all these things.
Okay. The Community Miracles Center is a church that was founded 30 years ago, a Course in Miracles church. And there's now 115 ordained ministers throughout the world, and I'm number 85.
Okay.
I was ordained about 3 years ago.
But I'll ask you to speak to your left side because we get better volume there. Now, when you were ordained as a reverend of what?
Of A Course in Miracles.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, I gave you a little brief introduction, and I think a lot of people have a lot of misunderstandings. And you're free to go as you would like to tonight. And I'm going to ask you certain questions because we have talked, and I'm interested in your perceptions. But what is it that you have to say to the generic people about what the Course is?
Basically, the Course is it's a mind training. It's kind of an untraining of a lot of the traditional church that many came from, with Jesus explaining how the world is basically from our own self-perception. It is as we have requested it, it has come to us. And the Course is helping through the daily lessons to one of the first lessons is everything that I see in this room or on this street or in this building means nothing. It has no meaning. And then later, one of the next few lessons is everything I see has all the meaning that I give to it. It's all perception of what I give to it, or what as individuals we give to it, that it serves its only purpose from that perspective.
See a lot of shock with people when you tell them there is no right or wrong. And they go, what do you mean we talk about you can't kill people? It's not what we're trying to say. The meaning is that when you have ascertained and called something right, then it is. If it's wrong, it's wrong. You know, in Europe, when you leave the bathroom door open, that's rude. In America, you leave the bathroom door, that's friendly to the next person. So right away, you can see the same thing, judge two different ways. And I think you run across that a lot with people about they don't realize they're assigning the definition to something. One thing I realized, Kim, recently is people always talk about rights. You got the right, you got the right. All a right is your opinion.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Right. We do have the right, and we have the right. You know, I could kill someone tomorrow, and the next day be as free as a bird with my whole world satisfied completely. I mean, there's not a right, and there's no room to judge any of it, because it's all just a play that we're all heading into, and it's all our perception of how we react or don't react, or how the peace is what I found with the Course in Miracles, just a peace that I never knew before.
Okay, and I think the Bible and the New Testament talk about that, but it gets so convoluted into becoming the Church of Jesus, which he really never intended, and it becomes so much behavior judgment. Mm-hmm. Don't judge. Oh, I judged, I'm bad. That's not what the Course says. Why does the Course tell us repetitively not to judge?
Because we don't know. We don't know what anything is for. We don't know what anything is for. Only because we've had some kind of experience somewhere that we've made it have a meaning for ourselves.
And as Hawkins talks about, you can't judge this hand that's about to slap you across the face unless you know everything about every hand in the universe and what caused this person to be born, and you're always wrong.
Right. That's an omniscient.
It's not the Catholic way of don't judge because you're bad if you judge. Oh, I shouldn't judge. It's because you can't judge.
That's right.
You're always wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I want to bring up, and I have a lot of questions for you. As you know, I've told you what my difficulties are with the Course and with the Course of Love. Obviously, I'm a big follower, but I do have some difficulties. One of the things I think needs cleared up, in the Course in Miracles and both books, the word forgiveness is used at least once every page. Mm-hmm. What is meant by that? It's the key to the books.
Yes, the forgiveness is not even holding any perception that nothing happened. We are at home with God. This is our dream to correct that error, and there's no forgiveness because they didn't do it. It's just a total wiping the slate clean. It's a total freedom.
So if you wreck into my car tomorrow, and it's your fault, you go through the red light in my car, I am to forgive you, not because I'm better than you and I'm bestowing you how grateful I am, how magnanimous I am. Mm-hmm. The Course in Miracles dwells upon the fact that nothing ever did happen. I need you to explain that.
Right. I mean, that's a tough thing to explain, and I should be better prepared at how to explain it. But I know whatever happens, this is just what it is. It's just a moment in time, and there's no exception to be taken to it, because I and my Father are one, and so are you. I mean, the whole point is to come from the Christ within and see the Christ without everywhere.
What I like talking about, Kim, about is, compared to many of the Course people I've talked about, many of the Course people stay very cerebral with you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kim doesn't do that. Kim has the cerebral stuff, but she continues that glow. That glow keeps coming out of her, and she keeps referring back to that glow. And I would suggest that glow is what's there when the clouds are moved. So when you started your work, and I think your bio said you started at age 3, and I did give you a reading. Mm-hmm. When did you start learning? How young were you when you started to learn that you needed to remove the obstacles, that the sun's always there?
Well, probably by the time I was 15, I left the organized church, and I had been holding hands with Jesus since I was 2, because I was raised in a traditional church, and it was the whole world for 3 times a week, at least every week. And at 15, I decided that wasn't heaven. I wasn't going there. That was a big judgment. And that's when I began my into mysticism, into finding out what is God, what happened. I mean, the judgment that I have had been trained in didn't work for me. That didn't feel right because I didn't think anything was wrong. But so I started searching through relationships, sex mostly is what it always led to, and then drugs. I went into psychedelics in north of Oaxaca, into the mushroom. I wanted to find God through that, and then slowly the different books. Astrology, I had a mentor for 25 years. My friend Rose and I, we did we went to ARE, Edgar Casey meetings, different things, and did a lot of astrology work together. And I just slowly, reincarnation came into the picture. One thing after another. I never was seeking a guru. I always knew this was between me and whatever. I bought the whole deal with Jesus. I knew Jesus loved me, and I held his hand. And I drug him all over, because God never wooed me. God said, whoa, whoa, and that's how I got here.
Kim is a double Virgo, and next week's guest is a triple Virgo. So we're on Virgo month, which is really good because these are the people that are going to be teaching us don't do anything. Can you imagine? Virgos are teaching you that don't do anything. I preached so long and so hard for 40 years to Virgos because Virgos are about judge me by my accomplishments. Judge me by my accomplishments. And I was talking a month or so ago, and it was beautiful with Kim. And Kim said to me, let go, there's nothing to do. Explain that to us.
Well, there is nothing to do, nothing more to read, nothing more to figure out. It's just to allow. And I have had a successful career. I was a state auditor in the state of Texas with TxDOT, retired after 25 years. I worked for Southwest Airlines when they first came into they were just in 4 cities in Texas. I've had a lot of that, and I've always sought to do, and be busy. Well, once I found the course, it began to unravel. And by the time I got to a course of love, and it said, it's over. The time of learning is over. We are the accomplished. It is done. We are here to express that. And there's nothing to do because there's nothing to do. It's all done and it's perfect. I mean, it doesn't matter what my events are or what's next. That's just a moment in time, I suppose, is how we can say it.
Well, I've talked a lot about this, and I think we have some Virgos on the show. It's very important for the Virgos who are basically fixers to keep fixing. When you got something wrong, fix it. But if you go about looking for something wrong, you're always going to find it or make it up, and then you got to fix it. But so many Virgos you see, the old adage, you got to keep busy, which really means you're running from God. You're running from God. And what I see with Nook and with you and with Tony and with so many is you've stopped running. What it means to me is that there's nothing to do means that if you naturally just go about, Nick put it this way, if you think of it, don't do it. If you're inspired to do it, then do it. There's a big difference.
Huge.
One side is trying to make something happen, which is impossible. You can't make anything happen. There's nothing worse than trying to force something to happen, which is why I have so much trouble with The Secret. I manifested that mansion on the hill. No, you didn't. I'm a co-creator. No, you're not. And what the Course says about astrology and incense and meditation and yoga and blah, 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 that you can do these things if you want to. You can do shiatsu, you can do feng shui, you can do whatever you want. And these things may help you. It doesn't judge it, but it says it's just magic. And it tries to not discourage it, but it tries to lean you towards what's non-magic. And what the non-magic keeps saying over and over, Like if you read the book by Gary Renard, which is called The Disappearance of the Universe, there's two charges in that book. One is forgive everything. Two is don't do anything else. That's it. The whole book is based, and this is the book that started Nick on his way. Forgive everything, which really means let it slide, let things go, overlook it, don't get hung up on it. And I like recently, I've been studying David Hawkins. He had a really interesting way of putting this, Kim. He talks about the Zen type way, the Buddhist way of not being attached. Well, you hear that all your life. And that's not an easy thing to do, but he really put it better than that. He said, if you have an attachment, let's say attachment to gambling, not just give up the attachment, but find out where you get juice from that. Where do you get juice from being attached to gambling? He said, once you realize that you get juice from gambling, then you start to realize you don't need that, then you can let it go and you become detached. But I think we're saying the same thing, aren't we, Kim?
Yes, yes. It is the same thing. It's just a little elaborate sometimes of life, of what it is that has our attention, and for fixers, or married 8 times and I have been a fixer, and to not do it has been such a shift, but everything boils down to relationships. That is how we work it out. That is how we see ourselves through those things that are the most.
Now, all these things that you fixed, what is your report card on how they stayed fixed or not?
I never even fixed my daddy. I stayed with him till the end.
Okay, and I think I can make this a little short for you. If you've read Nook Sanchez, who writes a lot of books, she's popular on YouTube or on Facebook, she stresses so much about relationships. And I'll be blunt with you. What she says is most of us are not ready at all for a relationship. Most of us want somebody to eat popcorn with, sitting on the couch, keeping us company, keeping us from having to look inside. A special relationship is the no-no. And what she means by special is as long as you want to be special, you're not going anywhere because you've automatically separated yourself from God. And as soon as you start to realize, like she's saying, and like Nick is saying, that you don't need to be special, that you don't even need to think about yourself, then you blend back into the oneness. So you have what's called the holy relationships. There are certain words that are very strong in A Course in Miracles. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yes. Since I am an expert, I can say the expert of marriages, whether, but my current husband is the father of my children, and it is a holy relationship, and it was given as that, which means we don't take anything personal. It's when something pulls up for the other one that is a disruption, we can look at each other and one of us will start laughing. It's like a recognition of ourselves in ourselves, because I know his points and he knows my points. And if we still have a blindness to something in ourselves, it's helpful to have the relationship, because that person can mirror that in some strange way.
What happens that is different and that works in a holy relationship? What's different about it?
What's different is that there's no projection out there that he's the problem that I've got. I mean, tell you what, even maybe yesterday, I don't think I did it yesterday, but sometimes I still want to go back to that. It's him. I'm the victim.
If I could fix him, if he were better in bed, if he made more money, if he would just listen to me, I would have no problem.
Right, yeah. And the same thing with my mom, my kids, my mother-in-law, whoever it is. And that's what makes it holy, is that I know not that. And the point is he knows it as well. He got me to A Course in Miracles. He took me to my first Course in Miracles meeting at Unity. We had already been divorced. We divorced in 97 the first time. And he got me there, and it didn't take off that was about 2001. And in a couple of years, he had to go to prison. And he was out of the picture. And I could have moved on. I was divorced from him. But I didn't. And I got into A Course in Miracles. He went to prison and found his own awakening there. He had given up the course, but he found it. And when we got back together in 2014, after 18 years of being apart, we had the gift that each other no longer looked at the other as separate.
Well, that blows my mind, because I can remember conversation. I met Nook Sanchez one day out in New Mexico, and she's this phenomenal author. She writes about the end of death. There is no such thing as death. She's tremendously course directed. She's in the middle of finishing book 2 out of a trilogy. But she said to me, she said, "Don't you understand that I cannot have any trouble with you because I am you?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that really resonates deeply, but it's a hard thing to understand.
Mm-hmm. And it's why the many religions, or the Bible has said, the Christ is one body. I mean, it is just a body. And that's why, I'm awake and I walk this earth as Christ. But in return, so do you. May not be as awake in whatever, if somebody, is still outside. But for me to envision you or anyone, that's my goal, to always see that in all of my interactions.
One thing has helped me, and I still have struggled with it, is getting it out of your mind. If the mind's there seeing two bodies, it's hard to see it as one. But if you close your eyes and just feel the room, you could go to a concert, an orchestra, and everybody's quiet. You could feel the oneness in the room. You can feel it. But once the mind gets involved, So what happened, I'm going to make a long story short. When planets are together, they birth something, depending on the planets involved. Later on, when they get to their opening square, they're always different. That's the first challenge. In 1965, 10 days before the course started, Uranus and Pluto conjuncted. And one of the meanings of that was we were to stop using our left brain and start using our intuition. What happened in 65? Black rights, women's rights, voting rights, Medicare, Medicaid, etc. What happened in 2012-13 when they finally squared? 51 years later, they finally squared. What did you see on the docket? Birth rights, black rights, women's rights, Medicare, Medicaid. This is why it's going through such stress and testing. So I started thinking about that, and I was talking with Sally Patton, who's been a guest on this show, and she was involved with Course in Miracle groups. So I realized if Uranus and Pluto had its opening square around 2012, then so did the Course, because the Course was born 8 days later. So I realized that the Course had to be going through a huge test, and I asked her what that was. And we talked about it for a while, and we finally realized that that was the time when a lot of people were getting tired of the over-intellectualization of the Course. Because the Course just bombards you with certain ideas, and then it writes it 4 different ways, and it writes 16 different ways, then 150 different ways. It just keeps hitting you with the same theory, so you get it in some way. Well, a lot of people didn't want that. A lot of people wanted heart-oriented. And then came the books of Marie Perron and Elizabeth Cronkite. And a lot of people preferred those books because they talk more about the emotional direction. Now, how has that been for you to see those two classifications of people?
That is something. And the thing about A Course in Miracles, I felt very strongly that it was very intellectual. I was really already out of that by the time I got into it. in 2012, I started reading the text with the CMC, the Community Miracle Center. They have a group that reads the text every week together for a whole year. And I just thought, it's just so heady. I want to get into just the love, the heart. And so the second year of the Community Miracle Center ordination for certification for ministers is to do the lessons. There's a lesson for every day of the year. And in the second year to become a minister, you have a different partner every month to do the lesson with for the day. And I thought, oh, that'll be an easy way. If I want to become ordained, I'll just do that. Within the first month, I was talking to Reverend Tony. I said, this is longer than many of my marriages. I got to get rid of these people. These people are making me crazy. I mean, and I suddenly realized that the whole thing with the Course in Miracles was relationship. Now the words are great if you can get into the words enough and get to it. But by the time I got to A Course of Love says the time of learning is over. Take it all into the heart. If you have a desire to do it, that's what you came here to do. Be yourself is the only reason for being here, to do what inspired you. And so I love the Course of Love because it's all about listen within. Don't worry about reading or doing anything else.
Now, I went through several months with you on A Course of Love. And as you know, the Course of Miracles was channeled through Dr. Helen Schuckman at Columbia University. She was not the person that you would think would be channeling Jesus, but he chose her for whatever reason, because she was pretty outspoken, let's say.
Yes, she was. And
Go ahead.
And the joy, I think, of the Course of Miracles coming from Helen was because of this tense relationship with her and Bill Thetford. They were at each other's throats every day in this office. And they both finally agreed, we can't live like this anymore. Could we do something to collaborate to where we could have a joining of our
I guess the point I was trying to bring is this. If you look at Uspensky and you look at Gurdjieff and you look at Castaneda, these are very much stern courses, if you will, pathways to God, that don't involve relationship. They're very much solitary. I forget the word that he used. The warrior, spiritual warrior. But it's very clear in both the courses, both the Course of Miracles and the Course of Love, that they stress so much the need for a partner. What does that mean? Why is it so important?
I think the partner is so important is because we came here to be together. We all come from the same source, and until we can bring that down, it seems to make it a platform for duking it out, for finding right and wrong.
Is it because we're such mirrors to each other?
Well, yes, of course, a mirror. Yeah, that's a perfect way to see ourselves.
Okay, now the hard stuff. I mean, if you belong to some of the pages on Facebook that are related to the Course, you will get bombarded over and over and over and over and over about you are not your body. And after a while, you start wondering, what do I do with this thing? Because one of the things I've liked about you is I know you're aware of it, etc., but it seems to me like you're doing the love part and let the body part just be as it may. Is that true?
That is true. And I have realized more lately to go ahead, at 63, to go ahead and do some maintenance now and then. Go ahead and start walking again. But
yeah, to help your body. Yeah, right.
Right. But
so you see, I find when they keep pressuring you all the time, you're not your body, that you walk around kind of spaced out. Right. And I think that from what I've read about Zen, etc., if you follow with the heart, the body just falls by the wayside. And you, like Hawkins, who certainly was enlightened before he died, started talking about the body. The body needs a drink today. The body needs some maintenance today. How did you deal with that whole thing? Did you just kind of take it lightly?
Yeah, at first I kind of got into it too with, okay, I'm not a body, so, my cancer surgery, just forget all that, it's over. But now, I mean, I just look at it as a vehicle to have fun with. So what if I make a fool of myself with whatever, being 40 pounds overweight and in my bikini at the beach last month? Here she is, Miss Texas, done dirty, whatever.
Don't you gotta love her attitude? I'm telling you, this is the way it ought to be. Instead of the church with the, then you sit, then you kneel, then you stand. Then you sit, then you kneel, then you stand. You don't even know why you're doing it, but you sit, then you kneel, and you stand. Boy, I'm glad that's dying out.
And Rick, you really gave that to me. Rick and I was recommended for a reading to Rick. And I hadn't done reading in many, many years. And I just did it earlier in this spring of this year. And he actually gave me the permission to be myself, which I have always, sought to take care of and to do. And I was asking him, I want to know just what my path is right now. And he said, hey, you've already got it. Just go. And that opened a whole mind. He was my mirror.
You were just ready to get, that's really, and I just gave her permission to go be herself. I don't have any power at all. But Virgo, most of my readings are Virgo women, it's just true. And they just go, okay, I'm ready to go. I really think, and I was talking to Kim before the show, I really think Virgo women and Virgo people have a very holy side. They really do. And I think it's got to do with being ruled by Chiron. I think, as I told you earlier, they don't want to hear about threesomes. They don't want to hear about your sex life. They don't really like dirty jokes. They don't really like criticism of other people. They have a pure streak, which is why I think the Virgin is there. I don't know what to do with this. Now, what I have understood is even no matter which approach you take, you will start experiencing yourself outside of your body. Explain that.
Well, I think outside of myself, it's just it's an observance that here's this, whether if I'm trying to clean up something or mow the yard, whatever it is, I see this body doing it, but I'm over there just at peace. I'm just sitting in the lap of God, waiting for him to tell me what to do, because it's not something I'm thinking of. It's what happens that I get to respond to.
So as Nick says, if you think of it, don't listen to it. And if you're inspired to do it, go do it. And that's the difference. It sounds hard, but you can tell when your reason's talking to you. You got to get this done. You got to put the food on the table. And you got people, what's Uncle Bill going to say, how you been doing that? And the other part of you is, boy, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. I talk to a lot of my clients, and I ask them, it's silly. What does the little Kim want to do? Well, the little Kim can't do what she wants. Well, why not? Because the little Kim says, I want ice cream, I want to go to the playground. Well, what does the big Kim say? If the big Kim says, no, you can't do that, it's a waste of time, or the big Kim says, yeah, let's go. And it sounds to me like what you're doing is a whole lot of a ladder.
Yes, it is. And it's a joy. And because I always had to keep myself in a box and right and looking right or being right or whatever I thought somebody else wanted, whether it be mama or some man or my best friend, whatever. And now I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Does it surprise you at all? In my opinion, the number one illness in astrology is Virgo people with intestinal problems. Without a doubt. Well, you can see why.
Yeah. Oh, and when you told me go with the flow, just keep going. I mean, it's amazing how some moments in time can reverberate with an expansion that is real.
Well, what
Thank you for that.
it is, and I'm absolutely certain, is you were just ready. You were just ready. My work becomes easier and easier because it seems people find me when they're ready, and I just sit there and smile, and I watch the argument inside of themselves just get smaller and smaller and weaker, and I just keep smiling and smiling, and then what's left is just them smiling at me. And I say, go, bye.
Nice.
Send me a postcard. So what do you say? What do you have to say to all the Virgos of the world?
To just let it go. It isn't going to get fixed. It doesn't matter. You don't have to tally it out even. Just go with the flow.
Well, what do you do when your nature is to fix everything? What do you do with it?
Well, just keep on plugging and don't give up. I mean, do what you got to do. And the great thing about a holy relationship is it reflects back. And it'll say, hey, sometimes Kiko will put me in my place and tell me, don't you be doing that again.
Tell me what that means. It's sometime in a holy relationship, it reflects back. What's that mean?
Well, if my husband Kiko, I will come out of the room and I'll say, you know, Reverend Daphne and I are going to do this. And he'll say, well, Kim, you just be sure you follow up on that and don't just be getting off on something else tomorrow to call me in on my big plans that don't always stick with anything.
That's called Moon and Gemini.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what a Moon and Gemini does.
But the relationship, Kiko knows me in and out. I mean, and that's, I guess, when we talk of marriage, we talk of staying with someone and being closely related to them in daily activity for a long period of time. And this is how we start to see each other. And sometimes it's easier for him to see me than for me to see myself, and vice versa in any relationship. That's what I mean about it will bring it to me. Because now I don't get defensive. Well, maybe a little defensive, but not most of the time.
Thank you all for tuning in. This is Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. And about 2 weeks out of 3, we cover astrology. And about every third week, we have a guest. Our guest tonight is Kim Wilson out of the Rio Grande border of Texas. And she is a reverend of the Course in Miracles. What's going on? I hear between the grapevine, I hear that even in the Course in Miracles, there are several people that are kind of fighting it out to be the #1 Course in Miracles teacher. So you even got ego going on there. Has you found that today?
Yes, there has been conflict between the Course in Miracles in general, but also with Gary Renard's book that you mentioned earlier, The Disappearance of the Universe.
Yes,
that was very highly contentious at the time it came out. And it was a great avenue for people to come into the course because it was easier reading and explained. The conflict with the Course of Love is still prevalent. And what the Community Miracle Center does is to bring a platform on our annual international conference for all members to come together. We're not seeking agreement. It doesn't matter. Whatever is fine. Each one could have the same stage, but we want to bring everyone together on the same stage.
Well, if there's an opponent in the Course in Miracles, it's the EGO. Mm-hmm. EGO. What did she just say? It doesn't matter. Well, hell, everything matters to the ego. And boy, the ego gets so offended. Now, I'm going to tell you something in case you don't know this. And I think it's really important. I have so many readings where the connection goes bad, the video goes bad, a dog runs in the room and starts barking, somebody slams the door, whatever. And in every case, the second that happens is exactly when I touch a spot that you don't want touched. Why is that? Because your ego knows when you're bluffing and your ego knows when you're serious, and this is a quantum world. The other day I had a client I was talking with. I do a lot of readings over this, and all kind of disruptions started happening. We couldn't get together. We couldn't get the signal. I said, that's because you don't want to hear where we're going to go. I said, but you do, but you don't, but you do, but you don't. And then as you start working through it, and they start to let go of the obstacles, then magically the connection starts to clear up. It's amazing to watch. What's happening with you now, Kim, as you walk around through daily life? I'm just going to call it this, in more of an enlightened, happy state. What happens to you now when you're around people just naturally?
I'm just the happiest I could be anywhere I am, especially if I don't know the language or I don't know anybody. And people look at me with a smile and they're, let me help. I mean, it's everybody wants to get a piece of the action is how I feel about it. And that's all I want to do is go out and give it. As long as I'm home, I mean, I'm fine. But to be with the people is the joy.
One of my early guests was Mike Weir, who's a regressive hypnotist here in Pittsburgh. He said, Rick, we're very good friends. He said, Rick, everybody's 9 years old and they all just want to be loved. He said, that's it. Put on whatever mask you want, but we're all 9 and we all want to show each other our latest toy. So we need to keep focused on what so many people say. Hawkins said it throughout his works too. David Hawkins, he's got a lot of works on YouTube about removing the obstacles to love. What does that mean? Removing the obstacles to the fact that you are love. What's that mean?
The obstacles that I am love, I think for me would be defensiveness that I'm not enough, that I'm not worthy of it.
Get this, everybody. One of the main words you're going to hear in the Course, if you read it, is guilt. Everything. Matter of fact, the Course says that God did not create the universe, that we created it because we feel so guilty, that we feel so guilty. This is right from the Course. We feel so guilty for having left God that we know he's going to come down and kick our little hiney. So we created the world, including all the planets and all things that you see, so that we can hide from it. That's an amazing thought, but that's a very repetitive comment throughout the Course, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And I mean, if we look at our world, and I know for me, it's really easy to go without instead of within, and without is the world,
And what can we say about the mirage of the local circus that's going on in this country? The rest of the world's looking at America like, what can we say? What's really happening?
I think we're finally looking at ourselves. I mean, and we're not turning away. We're demanding to see.
That Uranus-Pluto that conjuncted in 65, which was the 60s, and got square around 2012 and brought all its chaos with it. You notice now, and it just so happens Eris comes along right at the time the square is happening. Whoa. I think you're right. We're getting to the point where we're just fed up. We're fed up with lies. We're fed up with falseness. We're fed up with games. I just talked to a woman today who finally got away from a bad marriage after about 15 years of bad marriage. And she's telling me how she's free now. She's not playing the game anymore. So I think this Me Too movement, it's all connected. One of the things that's so nice about the Course, and I think you should reiterate, it's not a religion. It's not something you got to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What is the Course?
The Course is a self-study of the self, with undoing any kind of religion, especially religious backgrounds that were detrimental to the character of the person or the peace that passes understanding. And it's a way to look at the world. It's a way, it starts at the bottom, because the first lesson, nothing I see means anything. Nothing in this room means anything except whatever I give it. But first you go into nothing. You go back, it takes you back.
So if you are attracted to trying the course, don't be dismayed if you start and you get 50 pages and you're overwhelmed, because it's very cerebral. Just put it down. Pick up A Course in Love. That one might be for you, and some of the others. We're going to open up the questions now for you, and you can ask her any question you like on the subject, whether it's about the Course of Love, A Course in Miracles. All you need to do is raise your hand, and I'll put you on the air with her. We're going to keep recording because I think this will be very good for the folks in on YouTube. Anybody want to go first with a question? Can't be Karen. Karen, you obviously can hear us, but we can't hear you. Try saying, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I have. If I told you what I did, you'd sit back, because you know how tech impaired I am. I got it on my.
A lot of Virgo.
Huh?
You got a lot
I
of.
got it on my cell phone, and I can see you guys, but I'm connected in. Don't ask me how with my cell phone.
Okay. Any questions for Kim?
I don't know. I some of what she says I came to years and years and years and years ago. I walked out of the church, I don't know, in my 20s, and because there was a real discrepancy about what I felt churches and people that called themselves religious were supposed to be doing, and what I saw religious people doing.
I would like Kim to respond to you. The fact, Karen is a really fine healer. What does the Course say about somebody that wants to continue doing healing?
To continue doing healing?
Yeah. There's a lot of healing techniques. They're very specific. You do this and this and this. What does the Course say about healing? What does the Course say about being sick and getting healed?
That is it's a misperception. It's an error in the mind, in the thinking of the mind, that is everything we manifest is an inside job.
Well, you're both shaking your head, and that's really good. What do you mean by that? What if somebody's sitting here with a bad case of cancer and you tell them it's all in their mind? That's pretty rough to hear.
Yeah, it's and you know, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a question I've studied in the Course in Miracles and Course of Love, and it's I never come out exactly with a pat answer for something. It's not an easy one. Karen, what did you want to say?
I was going to respond. I never put my hands on anyone that I haven't really prayed about. I mean, you know, and when I work on somebody, I really believe that they have been brought into my life for a reason. And just as it's a mutual thing. It isn't just me being brought into their life and they're being brought in. It's not a one-way street. We both have something to give and to learn from that. And I cannot heal anyone. I can only facilitate what they want to give up. And I'm so strongly, I am of such strong belief with that. And I'm working with 2 men now, and I will tell you, they are the redneckiest red men that you could ever in your life meet. And it's a hoot to work with them. And one of them kept telling me, you know, well, I'm going to do it this way. And I said, well, that's okay. And he's been to the hospital like 3 or 4 times, and the last time he was sitting here and he says, they keep telling me the same thing you do. And I said, yeah, and how's that working out for you? And he just cracked up, but he's changing. And he's not changing because I'm trying to change him. He's changing because he's starting to realize. And I see him growing in many, many different ways. And I believe that's what we're here for. We're not here. We're here to be light and love. And if we can't be light and love, why are we here? I can't hear you now.
Is Rick muted?
I was muted, yeah. Thank you. Anybody else a question for Kim? I'm suppressing myself when I'm coughing. Yes, go ahead, Erica. You're on.
Hi, Kim. So from what Rick had said about the Pluto conjunction with Uranus in 1965, meaning that we were supposed to switch from the right brain to the left brain.
The other way.
The left brain to the right brain. Is that kind of at the foundation of what's going on, that we need to let go of that rational mind being the one that we prize the most, and to start to trust the other side because it's connected to God? Or is that part of it?
That's a good question.
Well, that sure makes a lot of sense to me, that that's the way it is. That it's trust within ourselves, and trust that our brother's not going to slit my throat if I give him a little information about me or whatever it is.
And the beautiful thing you just said, how well is that working for you? We're getting a big planet-wide multi-language question right now. Hey, you guys down there, how well has this been working for you? We all know it isn't. You know, mankind is tired, don't you think? Tired. I watched these hearings today, and the woman is sitting there suffering, and the guy's sitting there suffering, and the panel's sitting there suffering, and the viewers are sitting there suffering. And, you know, there must be a better way, Kim. Yeah, Erica, go ahead.
What was I going to say? Kim, you were saying that it's not necessary to like keep trying or keep working. I'm not putting it in the, you know, the right words, but I got the general gist of what you're saying. So what if we are led to be fixing things and repairing things rather than our mind telling us that we're being led to do that? That's okay, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, that sounds perfect. If whatever I'm led to do, if that's what I'm going to do, that's it. I mean, because somebody's got to fix it, right?
Your car's broken, you got to get it fixed. Right?
Hopefully you're just not led to killing somebody, right?
Well,
maybe they asked for it. I don't know.
And then you go to jail.
No, that's an infidel kind of question, and a thorough misunderstanding, and that would never come through intuition because it's not natural. Remember what the Course says, there is God and there's nothing else. So all the false things that you see are not there. They're made up. What do they say about the word fear?
Falsely, it's the opposite of love.
No, falsely evident appearing as real. Something like that.
Well, I can understand that about fear, but not about like a person who's really evil. They're real.
There's no such thing as evil. There's no good, bad. There's no evil. Do you think? Do you think Adolf Hitler got up in the morning and looked in the mirror and said, "Boy, I want to do the most evil thing I could do today"? No. I'm not supporting the guy, condoning him. He got up and said, I'm going to rid the planet of vermin. In his heart, in his mind, deceived, crazy, he thought he was getting rid of the rats, getting rid of the vermin. There is no evil.
But we think he's evil.
It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. What's the difference if some pygmy in Australia thinks of me? What's the difference if the Queen of England thinks of me? It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Like she's saying,
but we wouldn't have attacked him and had.
It does not matter what you think. You inherently are not good or bad.
So all those people dying in the concentration camp, that was nothing inherently bad?
If you think there was something inherently bad.
Well, they suffered terribly. I mean, I was there.
How do you know they suffered? How do you know they suffer? How do you know what their soul was volunteering to go through?
Well, maybe their soul was, but I don't know if they were conscious of that when they were in the middle.
As long as you see good and evil, you are automatically in a double universe. You are automatically not one. The Course says, what did I say? I read that. You can say it, Kim. What's the initial statement?
It is nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists.
Nothing real can be touched. Nothing unreal exists. So it didn't happen. It wasn't real because it's all play. It's all, you see, when mankind, there is no mankind.
That's what Alex Jones is saying.
There is no reason.
Really died in that
There
shooting.
is no mankind. There is no universe. There is God, and a part of God said, I think I'll go out and play by myself. And the rest became an illusion.
I understand
God,
that.
God cannot go out and play by himself. He cannot get away from his oneness. So all these people dying in the Holocaust, ships sinking, of course I don't want them to. I think it's miserable, my personal level, identifying as a body, but it's not real because all that exists is God's love.
And that's one of the things that the Course does say, that everything is either is loving or a call for love.
Yes.
That I believe.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. That's what Hitler was doing. He was calling for love. You're either giving love or you're calling for it.
People.
You can sit there and battle all you want, whether it's killing one person or killing 6 million. You can classify it however you want, but you're the one doing the classifying. It is your mental construct.
I guess going to Birkenau and Auschwitz a few months ago is still kind of very strongly in my mind.
Well, that is what you put in your mind, isn't it?
No, it was there.
Of course it is. Of course it is. How many times do you hear people say, I've been carrying this with me all my life? The verb is carry.
I know.
You could drop it 20 years ago, but you carry it. Help me out. Save me. Oh, Waldo.
I don't mean carrying it that way. I mean, I carry the memory of seeing.
Yeah, but where do you carry it? Where do you carry it? Where do you carry it? In your pocket?
Memory.
Is it in your pocket? Is it in your left toe?
I don't know where exactly physically it is, but I know it's there because I experienced it.
Your mental judgment. Mental judgment. Save me, Waldo. I'm in big trouble here.
You deserve it. Well, all I can say is I believe that we create our world that we see. We create it. So even I think the Course of Miracles talk about that, about if you look at the world with your desires, what you desire is what you create. And then every time we can see like in the TV today, I mean, one side you have emotions and the mind, there's intellectual people talking over the emotions, but everybody could feel the emotion, even the people that are against the judge or the ones against the woman, they see the emotions comes through, and I mean, we are emotion. We are emotion, and I believe the Course of Miracle, for me, perfected, is very intellectual. Like, it's trying to put a perspective intellectual so people can understand and don't feel so bad about how they been told that they were sinners and all this stuff. But at the end, the emotions, our body is built to feel emotion and to go through the experience in this earth through emotions, using our intellect to maybe do not go so down in our emotional body, but
Right.
still, we always gonna like she right now, emotionally, she will not accept it because it's true. I mean, our emotional body for many, many, many millions of years is our brain is fear, anger, even happiness, love. All that is still an emotional body. We cannot intellect that. It's always there.
Remember what Einstein said. There's only one question in your life. Do you see the world as hostile or friendly? If you see the world as hostile, you will see hostility, and vice versa. What happens if I'm walking down the street with Kim and I see a bum on the street sleeping, and I talk to her about it later? She says, I didn't see a bum on the street sleeping, but I did.
Right. It's your perception.
I'm creating what I see. I'm creating, in other words, they make a very strong distinction in the Course that God creates and people make. Explain that. Hold on a minute. Explain that to us, Kim. That God creates and humans make or try to make.
Right. The making is still in the ego. It's the idea that I get that I'm going to build a corporation to house a shoe store. But with the creating is with the Holy Spirit or with my higher self, with God, that this is to be done. And it's a burning desire, or it is a desire or inspiration that comes forth, and that's a creation instead of just making.
Why do you think when they talked to Bob Dylan about writing Tangled Up in Blue or Like a Rolling Stone, he says, I don't remember. He says, right after I wrote it, I have no idea how I wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so beautiful, because it came through. But he's smart enough to know to let it to come through, and that's why he's got such nasty disdain for people asking him questions. Well, did you put 3 quarts of sugar in it and a quart of milk in it? And how did you shake it up, and how did you do it so we can do it again? You can't do it. That's what's wrong with Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh is an example. Kavanaugh is an example of somebody that thinks he's smarter than God. That's why he's having a Chiron return today in Pisces opposite Pluto. This isn't just a man trying to get in the Supreme Court. This is a natural fault of patriarchy. This is a natural fault of humanness. And then, of course, in Miracles is constantly telling us that we think we're smarter than God. We think we can do it better. And that's why Kim keeps telling us that lesson number 1 is you don't know what anything is for. You don't know what the chair's for. You don't know what the ceiling's for. You know the word in your mind, because in the Course, everything you see, all you see is its past. I give you a baseball. All you see is the past and all the things you remember about baseball. If you look at the baseball, you don't know what it's for. It's just this thing. Does that make sense, Kim?
Yes. Yes, I don't know what anything is for. Plus, I don't know what my brother or sister needs. I don't have a clue. And that was one of the big things being the fixer that I was so good at, or
Well,
always
were you?
attempting to. Yeah, always attempting that, was that I always thought I knew.
They're all fixed now, are they?
Right. They're all going to therapy because of
Huh?
me, I'm sure.
How many
Probably
how many doctors you all been to that fixed you up real good? Huh? That's
But
what I
Erica,
want to know.
Rick, I'd like to go back to Erica for just a minute on this with Auschwitz, a comment, because one of the lessons of the Course in Miracles is I am not a body. I am free. I'm still as God created me. And in the Search for the Meaning of Life with Mr. Frankel, that was in one of the camps and came out, and that I don't know exactly how, if he went into I'm not a body, I'm free, but I think that was how it was. I read his book, Search for the Meaning of Life, from that, and that's kind of, the emotional part of seeing torture or things that are difficult, even today on the news with the trial, the testimonies going on. That's an uncomfortable situation, but the Course in Miracles gives us that I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm still as God created me.
Kim, I can understand what you're talking about the gentleman who was in Auschwitz or Birkenau. From seeing what was going on, those people were so stripped of everything, which, represented their life, to the point, their hair was shaved. They were forced to be naked.
It was collective guilt.
And they found this strength within themselves and this love and creativity. People were writing music there. They were so strong that they scared the Nazis because they weren't afraid, even though they were going to their death.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what he was talking about. They found that inner strength, where they found that eternal within them, and they were no longer afraid because everything.
How about all the people? How about the people like that went through Stephen Popland and did the regressions and popped up 1 minute or 30 seconds after they died and realized, ooh, that was a trip. I'm glad that's over.
Well,
Through our perspective in watching movies and watching these people go through lines and they're bone thin and the children are dying and we see the glasses and the shoes everywhere. It's an awful thing to our perspective. But when he talks to certain individuals that went through it, it's not necessarily that way. We put a prejudgment on the whole thing, and judgment is always wrong.
So what should we do? Just sit and watch and allow?
You should not do anything. Should is a word that needs to be destroyed in the language. You don't do anything. Should. The whole point is, Erica, we don't know, and I'm speaking for most of us, we don't know what we are. And who we are as Rick and Erica and Susan is wrong. It's not true. It's not real. We are not separate bodies. Susan Rivera is waving her hand. Go ahead, dear.
I mostly agree with what you're saying, but I think, as you know, my parents were Holocaust survivors, so I'm listening to this. And I think when you go through something very heavy, you clearly feel it. Can you physically escape it while you're here? I don't know, not without becoming schizophrenic and dividing your personality from your experience. But I understand the concept and agree with the concept that whatever we really are, we were before we got here into these bodies. And we will be again when we leave these bodies. But the thing is, while we're in the bodies, there's a certain amount of attachment due to whatever physical laws bind us here.
Your karma is causing the attachment.
You're talking about that ride. Well, you got to keep your hands and feet in the car at all times until you get off the ride. And there's no way around that. There's no leaping out of the middle of the roller coaster while it's, 50 or 80 feet up in the air.
Well, one of the things I think is very important, because I've suffered through this a lot. If you get all hung up about you're not your body, you will go through a lot of suffering. And I really advise anybody getting into the course to do it the other way, which is what I view Kim as doing. Frankly, why I invited Kim on the show. I mean, I've already got a heads up from next week's guest, Nick Arandes. He's already told me we're going to talk about the basic fact that you are not your body, and we're not going to do a New Age sing-song. I said, thank you, but I do not think you can approach this by I'm not my body, I'm not my body. These poor people at Bershowitz, these poor people at Auschwitz. I don't think that that's the avenue. You cannot understand this mentally. Right. It's not something that can be understood mentally, because we keep thinking, when we're mental, when we're thinking, we're separate. We're analyzing this and that. Everything's separate. That's why Kim's talking about letting it go. She says, I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm allowing everything. That's what she said. That's critical to this whole thing. And it's a really useless argument to talk about whether the Holocaust was right or wrong. We all know it was awful, terrible, suffering, screaming, blood, yes. Right. But there's another level. All these things are true at different levels. And for this kind of course, you really have to let it go. You don't hear the Buddhists screaming about this. You don't hear a lot of other courses screaming about it. You don't hear Jesus screaming about it. But you do hear people exclaiming once they found it. They go, aha. Tell us about your aha, Kim.
I suppose my aha came as the feeling of being one with all. That there was nothing out there that was coming up against me like I felt all the time, that people were doing this or that to me and that it was all wrong. It was just the moment I woke up to that, it was like people could not rush to me fast enough to help me to whatever it was. It was like there was always abundance of whatever.
Here's the missing variable. The Course says to forgive everything, let it go, because, this will blow your mind, because the Holy Spirit is doing all the work. That you are not able to do anything. You are not able to. You're deceiving yourself. It's your ego construct. That once you stop trying, the Course does the Holy Spirit's doing it all for you. You could call it the universe, you could call it spirit, you could call it life juice, whatever you will call it. But that's what Nick's so good at, delineating it. How many times have we all heard, let go and it will work out? Well, that's not a little glib statement. Right. And the reason that it will work out is because the it is always working out. And the only thing that's stopping it is when we get involved. We want to get one more for Rick. And what's Rick's scorecard? What's Bill's scorecard? What's Sally's scorecard? Boy, I didn't do that very well when I'm comparing myself to last year. And we get in this whole mental thing that's just a mess. So the Course is very clear. Let it go. You see, the Course talks about how we can maybe go fix something, or we can fix a problem with 2 people. But if you let go, the Holy Spirit fixes this for 19 people. It's bigger, it's smarter, it's broader. We're just so glued into thinking that we're separate. Yes, Mr. Waldo?
I believe that, the Course teaches you.
He said I deserve it.
The Course teaches you that.
Cut his microphone off.
Like the lady just said. You, a spirit, if you use the Spirit, the Holy Spirit is you you, all of us. But you come to this body to feel emotionally. So you will never avoid the emotions. You have to probably, in order to live a happier life like she's doing, is to accept the emotions. To if you anger, accept the anger. If you are sad because what happened in Germany, accept it, but do not blame anybody. Just because if the Holy Spirit wants us to live through this, is because it's bigger than us. We are not, we are spirits living in the emotional body. We are not a body with a spirit inside. With that spirit.
The Course in Miracles say that your emotions are an illusion.
But because of the emotion, you move to this third dimension. You're here in the earth. You're not over there.
You can stay at that realm if you want to, or you don't have to. It's your choice. You have free will.
So that's the free will, just to accept. For me, is that so accept it, feel it. You feel sad, you feel pain. Your body is like a register. The emotion. That's why you always, even when you're a healer, you cannot heal yourself because you're receiving the emotions of everybody else, and you have to recycle to your body. So most of the time, that's why you are in pain. You always have something going on when you are in the healing profession, especially people that are doing body works and all this stuff. They never good. I mean, I meet thousands of them, and they always have something. But now they get to the point where they don't care. Like you say, I don't care. I don't put too much attention to that anymore.
Yeah, so they're transcending it. Let's go on to the question by Suzanne. Suzanne was up first, then Susan. Go ahead, Suzanne. Suzanne, you're on. I don't hear your speaker I don't hear your microphone for some reason. No.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Try now. I heard something.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Kim. I just am. I have the Course in Miracles book, and I've taken maybe about 2 weeks of it. But it seems to me like because we're human, it's a never-ending attempt to free ourselves of the shackles of our ego. And that's how I'm interpreting it. And then also, where does creativity fit in here? If you're a very creative person, you have a lot of fire and you want some action.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this fit in with the Course in Miracles? I would be squashing myself as a creative person if I just would allow and didn't try to express myself. Where does expression?
Allowing creativity is natural. Go ahead, Kim.
Where does expression come in?
Right. That's exactly what the Course in Miracles is asking for, is for the expression of creativity.
Right.
However, because it's so in depth with all the lingo and the words over and over and over, and the lessons every day, that's why the Course of Love is the more freedom in the creativity. The Course in Miracles asks for it because it wants us to only express the divinity within.
It's very clear to me that it means if you're creative, let it go, let it rip. We talked about Bob Dylan. But the problem comes in when you start identifying with it. Well, I wrote that song because I thought of this. And then you start assigning to the ego what's not the ego's, instead of it came through Suzanne, which is big and huge.
So what you're saying, when Erica and Susan were talking about the Holocaust, it's okay if they express themselves about their response to something happening horrendous in the world, as long as they don't attach themselves to it.
Yes, and remember, it's okay to express it. Matter of fact, everything's okay, but it's them putting. If you ask her perception of the Holocaust, you're going to get a completely different answer if you ask the Dalai Lama. Both people that think the thing was awful, both people that think it's horrible, but they're both seeing it, the Dalai Lama seeing it both levels at the same time. you are totally encouraged to be as creative as possible. The interesting thing that Hawkins says, which I thought is great, he says that creativity and evolution are the same thing. They're the same thing, that God is continually creating. And you claim that you are very, very creative. Excellent. Keep on creating.
Well,
Because
I don't know if I claim it, but I've lived my life as a creative person.
well, you're certainly very creative, and I think everybody on this show pretty much is. We got time. Thank you, Suzanne. We got time for one last question from Susan Avere, and then we'll call it
Not
around.
a question, but I would like to quote some words of wisdom given to us at a very early age to take with us through our life. It goes like this: row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
That's some Sagittarian had to write that. Excellent. Hey, thank you so much for being with us, Kim, tonight. You've been just wonderful, and you really filled in a gap and helped the show transition from Venus and Mars and fourth house and stuff towards higher dimensions. And thank all of you for your contribution. Kim, we're certainly happy when you join us anytime you want to. We'll have you back on again. What you draw? Show us what you drew. How's that?
Nice.
She's good, isn't she? She's really good. Kim, it's up to you. If you want to offer people an email address at your community center, it would be a good thing to do now if they'd like to get a hold of you.
Yes, it would be, let me just give you my iCloud account, Kim D as in Denise Wilson at iCloud.com.
Okay, everybody, love you all, and please be
Thank you
with
so
us.
much.
Please be with us next week and get your seatbelt on, because next week he's not a reverend, but he's outrageous, and he's really something. Our 100th show with Nick Arandes, who's following right in the footsteps of what Kim has laid down tonight. And thank you, and please join us then. Thank all you YouTubers for tubing with us. See you all. Good luck with your computer, Karen. Bye-bye.